Senator Ernst, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's so good to hear you. I don't see you, but that is
Right.
good to
Yeah,
be
no,
able to hear your voice.
I'm on my phone. I'm in between a couple of votes. So,
Well, we appreciate you taking time from your very busy schedule for us. You are on with about 30 businesses throughout the Greater Burlington area. Our folks who are participating on the call, thank you for joining our virtual Washington, D.C. visit. We were scheduled to actually be in D.C. this week and perhaps meeting with you in person, but obviously history had different plans for us.
right. Yeah, I appreciate it. Let's dive right in if we can.
Yes, ma'am. Would you share with us what are the legislative priorities that got your attention right now?
Well, of course, we're focusing very much on the pandemic. That is going to be first and foremost. But of course, we do have other priorities ongoing, um, continuously working on things that still have to get done, whether it's the water resource bill, the infrastructure bill that's been passed out of the EPW, and of course, a number of other priorities like the National Defense Authorization Act. So I think all of those things are really important, and we need to know that we can get things done.
So, Senator, COVID-19 economic recovery is top of mind for our members and our business leaders. What can we expect from the federal government? What's up next as far as recovery or incentives?
Right. We do have a phase 4 package that we are looking at, but we are not done with yet. And that won't be done until probably in July, early part of August. And all of us are putting together various priorities for that package. So it's yet to be seen what that will entail, but certainly it would include things like making sure our healthcare systems are up and available for all of those communities that really have to have this in place. Um, of course, other changes to the programs that we have already established through the CARES Act, making sure there's greater flexibility. And there's so many priorities that we are driving forward with. Supports to agriculture, all of those things are included.
Do you anticipate that expanded federal investment into highways and bridges and other types of infrastructure might be in this phase 4?
Well, I doubt that it will actually be in the phase 4. It is something that we are hoping can be passed separately as an infrastructure bill. So we already have passed out of EPW the FAST Act. We did that last year on a bipartisan basis, 21-0. So that largely funds our roads and bridges, locks and dams, all of those issues. But then we also passed our Water Resource Development Act bill, the Clean Water Act, out of committee, also hugely bipartisan effort just a few weeks ago. And we're hoping to combine those two bills with a rural broadband bill out of Commerce and get that passed separately on the floor of the Senate later this fall.
Broadband is a high priority item for folks in Iowa, so we're pleased to hear that.
Yes.
What about liability protections for businesses in light of COVID-19?
Yes, that is one thing that Leader McConnell has stated is a must do in order to move forward on the next round of additional investments. So we need to make sure that not only our small businesses are protected, but that also our universities and colleges are protected, that our churches are protected. We're seeing a flurry of lawsuits that are already being prepared and filed in the pandemic. And we don't want to subject those people that are doing things right and are doing their best to protect their consumers, the public, and their employees. We want to make sure that we have those protections in place for them. What we don't want to cover is somebody who's made some egregious mistakes out there. We don't want to protect those people, but we do want to make it fair to protect those that are doing their absolute best to protect our public.
So, Senator, and I know it's very, very early, our country has been through a lot in the last week or so with the riots and the looting and some of the just horrific things that we're seeing happen in cities. How is that going to potentially impact the federal government's ability to continue to respond to the economic recovery?
Well, I do think that we are going to continue pressing forward, and certainly this has been devastating on a national scale. But again, you know, we have many issues that will pop up, whether it's federal, state, or local. But the fact of the matter is, we must continue to press forward. So whether it is teen pandemic, making sure that we are addressing racial discrimination that exists out there across the United States, making sure that we're passing the National Defense Authorization Act. I mean, all of those things that we should and can do simultaneously at the various levels of government. So believe me, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, regardless of what a lot of people might say. We should be focusing on all of these issues.
Well, I know that Jeremy Hess, who you know very well, has been fielding some questions from some of the folks who are listening in on this call. So I'm going to yield our time over to Jeremy and see what else has come across that radar.
Wonderful. Thank you, Della.
Yeah, it was nice to speak with you, Senator.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Senator Ernst, Jeremy Hess here. So one of the, good to hear your voice. So the, you know, our little airport here, the Burlington, I have no idea what that noise is. Somebody has
it's probably, it is me. I'm actually on the subway now trying to get back to my office. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm always on the move.
All right. So our airport is very, very critical to us here in the Greater Burlington area. And so do you think the COVID-19 situation might impact our ability to get FAA support for the airport improvement program? So, for example, we already have some airport runway reconstruction underway. And so there's been hints that there might be delays. Or what do you know, or have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, it is possible that there would be delays, but again, I think, Jeremy, you know, we're committed to moving forward on many different items that are critical for our infrastructure. So while I can't guarantee it, there is a lot of unknowns out there. I do know that most of us just want to continue pressing on, and we know how important it is not only to our communities, but also for the jobs that those would provide. And I think it's important that we just press on if at all possible.
Yeah, great. So I'm going to ask you to pull over and look into your crystal ball and tell us if these infrastructure bills are going to come before or after the election. We'd like an exact date. I'm just kidding.
I would too, believe me. I actually think it might. We would like to see it before. Just the conversations that I have had with a number of other members on EPW, we would love to see that before the election. And I do think it's important that we can show that these are bipartisan issues and things that we all agree upon that would support and build America. However, that being said, we oftentimes run into many difficulties as we're moving through the final few months of an election season. So it very well could be immediately after the election. But again, the preference is to do it prior to the election.
Okay. And let's switch gears just a little bit to the kind of ongoing relations with China and just the strained relations that seem to be on right now with what are your thoughts, or what can you tell us about, you know, there's concern about disrupted supply chains and source material and those kinds of issues being disrupted, or I know that they just stopped some ag purchases this week, and that hurts us. And where are we?
It exists. Hang on, let me. Okay. Go ahead and take that one. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm jumping to another phone here. Let me try and get it out of this. Okay, so
Senator Ernst, you still with us?
oh, I'm probably muted.
Oh, there we go.
Shoot. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay. I think you're
Jumping
calling user number 5 now. Very good.
Now I am. I'm jumping from one phone to another. I'm sorry. I'm back
That's okay.
in my office. So with China, the supply disruptions and so forth, I've actually recommended to the White House and to the administration that they establish a White House Office of Supply Chain. And so what I feel we need to do is take a good hard look at what we need for national security purposes, what we need as essential items for the United States, say it's pharmaceuticals or compounds that go into our pharmaceuticals, and making sure that we can either source those from within the United States or with countries that we consider friendly to us, so that we are not placed in a difficult circumstance again in relying on China to provide PPE, pharmaceutical compounds, durable medical equipment, national security items, rare earth minerals that have to go into our military technology. That should not be coming from China. So we need to take a good hard look at that. Now, other types of trade, Iowa being the perfect example there with agricultural trade, commodities, things like that. Sure, let's engage in that type of trade as long as we have our own resources here in the United States. So I think we'll have some good traction there in working with the administration. We just need to understand how we can better support our citizens here and be less reliant upon China.
With the package that's already been passed, and you talked about a little bit of making sure that there's extra support for our healthcare systems. And one of our local employers, just an important segment of our whole community, works with some what's called direct support professionals, and they really need that special funding. And so I know my friend Bob Bartles would ask me to pass along to have you consider, or the Senate consider, an increase in Medicaid funding specifically for the home and community-based service programs and those kinds of things, and just making sure there's additional funds in our public health and social service systems and emergency funds to make sure that these home and community-based services can continue to be provided.
Absolutely. And kudos to Bob, because he has been just a tremendous champion in this area. And I know that he has worked closely with Sherry Clark, who is over in Southwest Iowa. She also has a program that helps those that struggle with intellectual disabilities or physical disabilities. And I know firsthand how important those programs are. So we will continue to work very diligently in that area to make sure that they are not left behind or forgotten. We know how important those Medicaid dollars are. I know we had issues with PPE and trying to get those types of supplies out to those local community-based organizations. But we will keep on that fight. That is something that is very important to me. And again, a huge kudos to Bob for just being such a strong voice in that area.
Excellent. All right. So let's back to the kind of the China question a little bit, just about the democracy and the autonomy in Hong Kong and Taiwan, and just kind of your position on the role that the U.S. Should be playing, our foreign policy positions there. Could you just maybe touch on that a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is so important that we continue to stand behind Hong Kong, stand behind Taiwan, and make sure that the Chinese know how invested we are to the people in those areas, because they have the right to exist. They have their own civil rights. We need to make sure that China is not quashing any of that. It's so important that we keep that foothold in that region and make sure the people understand we are behind them. There are various efforts throughout our agencies here in the United States to make sure that we are supporting those people and their efforts, whether it's engaging in trade, military support, whatever it is. We must keep assuring them that we are here for them, and also signal to China, you do not mess with them. If you mess with them, you are messing with the United States as well.
Great. Well, listen, I know that I'm looking at the clock. It's 1:50. I've been told that you have a 2 o'clock possible vote. And so I'm going to turn it back to Della real quick. Della, if you're still there, your video's gone, but maybe.
I am still here.
Okay. So I'm going to pitch it back to you, ma'am. Sorry.
No troubles.
Jeremy, very much.
Thanks, Joni. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, Senator, on behalf of the Greater Burlington Partnership and our Government Relations Committee, thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to speak with us. We look forward to brighter days ahead when we can be together in person. And again, thank you for all the work that you're doing on behalf of Iowans in representing us to the federal government.
You bet, Della. And I apologize for all the movement and activity going on there. We keep hustling along out here in Washington, D.C. with a very limited staff right now. But certainly we want everyone, please, please, please stay safe. Let's open as quickly as we can, but let's do it safely. And just know that I'm here to work for you, and just really appreciate your thoughts, your ideas, your concerns. It's a very difficult time for America right now, but we are going to keep driving forward. So thanks for the opportunity, Della. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator, and you stay safe as well.
Sure will. Thanks, everyone, for the time today.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, everyone, that concludes our call with Senator Ernst. We can close out of this call, and for those that are joining you for our next call with Senator Grassley, you can log back in on the new link. Thank you.